Hey, it's me. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm doing a response to this sort of to Anekantavad, but it's not really. It's just he's bringing up this. He didn't say the word spontaneous, but it's this. These, his name isn't an accident. This Anekantavad. He just took the A off of it. This Buddhist philosophy, religion kind of thing. I mean, he's a spiritualist. He's a witch doctor, even though he describes other people with that kind of language. He's selling, mumbo jumbo, big time, and some sort of greater purpose, greater function, to the organism besides us just being, fleshy covered insects. Doesn't want to aggrandize our function, our purpose, our mission. So he's a believer in some sort of spontaneous, some sort of will generated out of nothing. The spiritual vapors, the magical powers of the universe are thrusting through us and making us will to do, will to be, will to blah 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 blah. And this gets into this whole word crap. These arguments that are so much built on semantics. How you define words, how your brain, reacts to a word and its meaning. And so for virtually many decades, the word spontaneous has been an anti-word to me. It's been a word that is a validation of the very concept of the brokenness of language. So it's very early in my youth, I was exposed to the idea of cause and effect, and a recognition that there was nothing that happened before there being a pre-existing condition, and there were no magic energies or magic anythings that ever made something happen. Einstein basically said it. I mean, there's an equation, right? It's not E plus special stuff equals MC plus special stuff squared. There's no special stuff. There's no magic here. There's no controlling, organizing, managing, manipulating entities. The constellations are not wiggling our brains into performance, into our astrological destiny. That's mumbo jumbo, people. Atheists, you have to tell the atheists that astrology isn't real, because some of them fall for it. So anyway, so on this subject, I mean, just generally speaking, so I did this, in Tiny Chat. I tried to be constructive, so I did write these aphorisms, notes, premises, simple ideas. The universe is fucking big, it's fucking old, and it's fucking dumb. Simple stuff like that written here. Just this idea of collating the fact words, the descripting words, the describing words surrounding what existence is. These key concepts of evolution, the universe, physics, chemistry, biology, consciousness, feelings, thoughts, illusion, material reality, human, ape, the list is, the words. I've done this in the past, and I even did, I don't remember what I called this, life map, but, I did a couple of videos with this life map stuff, and, so I'll redo that. I'll do some more of this construction of a, and I did, I pulled words out of a hat and described those words. But that, there has to be another mechanism. So I'm thinking maybe I'll write some of this stuff down and on a web page, and I'll create a web page with a mouse over function. So in every word, we'll have a description of that word, or even a video about that word, and about what that word means to me, and how I understand the use of that word, and what it implies, and what it says, and how it can be used, and what makes it a good performer in description, and what destroys its performance in description. And so, Anekantavad's done this in this video. He's talking about will, and then he makes a distinction. Well, some things we will, and then some things we want, and then we need, and these words are really describing the same thing, right? They're describing a circumstance of reaction. So even that, he uses this word action and reaction as if the reaction word doesn't have the word action right in it. That of course all reactions look like actions. Every effect is a cause. Unless the whole universe disintegrates, every action causes an effect, and the effect becomes a cause, and it's a cycle. But he's talking as if there's some sort of magical, inspired, spiritually implanted inspiration of action. And that there is an effect that has no discernible cause. It's a mystery cause. And so he would argue that his choice to shovel snow, that there's some sort of want or desire that is not going to be reactionary, and that it's not going to be a simple mechanical process of balancing different interests. It's cold outside, I don't want to shovel the snow. Do I really need to use the car? Can I walk? Is there alternatives? Maybe an alternative is a better alternative. You measure those, you put them on your little intellectual scales, and you figure out which one is less risky, less burdensome. We even do this short-term, long-term thing all the time. The police officer knocks on the door, and although you'd like to maybe just, hey, I got a knife in my hand, I could just stick it in his face. That might be a problem for your long-term. Long-term that might cause some trouble in your life. So in the future. So even though at the present it's perfectly doable and, no problem whatsoever, in the future you might have to pay for that, and so fuck it. You'll let it slide, even though you want to. Punch him in the face, or pull the cord to the trap door you dug. You don't do it because you just say it's not worth the trouble. And it's a rational process that takes place where you measure the other stuff you want, which is not to go to jail, or the list of things you don't want to have happen to you, and you don't drink poison water because it might satisfy my thirst for 5 minutes, but it might make me horribly sick, and that's no good. This isn't complicated. There's no magic here. There isn't any special forces that are helping you out in your decision making. There's no spontaneous. They're all reactions to the circumstance. They're all thrown together and balanced out by the rational process that's become your brain, the weight you apply to certain kinds of efficiency. Certain things you think are highly efficient, certain things you think are not so efficient. And so you tend to choose the things that fall into those different curves, based on your sensibilities. I'm obviously in a conditioned circumstance lately where I'm not valuing the efficiency of not having clutter and a mess. I seem to see function in clutter and mess. It's okay, it's acceptable. It's an acceptable inefficiency and friction. Quite obviously, my judgments have been consistently tolerant. Even though I'm aware of it and I don't like it, and my brain says, we don't really like this, clearly every other weighing part of my brain, besides this one that says, I'm not a slob. There's one part of me that says, I'm not a slob. It believes that. And so it finds it inconsistent with the life I'm living. It's saying, you're a slob. Oh man, what is it? Wait, with this fucking phone. Smithsonian magazine. I just hate that really, nice things, things that are supposed to have some kind of integrity, Smithsonian institution, associate themselves with crooks and bums, and you're just like, why do they do that? It's just, I mean, it's bad enough when the crooks and bums behave like crooks and bums, but the things you're saying should have some integrity. And even they can't help being assholes. Selling out to the assholes. Alright, so anyway, where was I? So yeah, there's this idea in my head that says I'm under control, I can handle it. And so the idea that I'm not handling it isn't consistent with that. But again, the rest of my life, the rest of the equations are being judged based on circumstances, like I have a headache, or I don't feel good, or I can't do it right now, or a bunch of procrastinating, excuse making, rationalizations that just happen day to day, where I just say, nah, I'm tired, I'm going to take a nap. And so I do something to evade. There's some other thing I have to do, some other, and so it just doesn't get done. So, but they're all reactions, they're all personal, built over the entirety of my life, standards of judgment. They're there. We have these little standards of this is what the word means, this is what integrity means, this is what honor means, this is what this means. And everything has to bounce off of those things, and it'll decide whether you go out and shovel your driveway or not. It'll be decided by these circumstances. And one of the key circumstances is, how am I doing right now when I have to make the decision? What's happening to me in this context? Because I could argue like this thing with the kids, stealing my stuff and ruining my $500 on my cameras, pissed me off. But if it happened 2 weeks ago, I would have reacted probably more. I would have been more upset. But the very fact that I was having these conversations with these people, and Andy particularly, in the sense that he announced his wife is pregnant, and just the thoughts that I was going through in terms of thinking about even living a good adolescence is difficult. Even, surviving adolescence is so difficult. And so just the fact that I was thinking about how difficult adolescence is for so many kids, and what a hard time it is for so many kids. And especially mine was just, like I said, there were years of my adolescence that were as bleak and dark, a nightmare as you could get. I mean, every moment of my life was tense and nauseating and irritating. I was constantly feeling as if I was in some kind of Freddy Krueger nightmare. I mean, it really felt like that. Every day I woke up, I hated waking up. I hated facing a day. That kind of, it was just horrid. So anyway, just thinking about that changed my perspective. And so now this input comes in of somebody does something. So like your snowstorm, it happens, and you react one way because it's 2 weeks later. And right at the moment I had been thinking about adolescence and how difficult it is, and so now my reaction was so much more empathetic, so much more understanding, so much more, fuck it, it's not worth getting upset about, kids will be kids have it rough, I'm not going to make a scene about it, I'm not going to make a stink about it. So I just took it. I ate it in a way I probably wouldn't have eaten it 2 weeks ago. And that's just because of these circumstances. It's clearly cause and effect. I can see why I reacted the way I did. It's not a mystery. I can find it. I can look at it. I can analyze it. I can see where it came from. I can see where my reaction came from. And it's like our dreams and all this stuff. We can see where this stuff comes from. It doesn't come from nowhere. It always comes from somewhere. We can see it. Our construction. If you want to go look at yourself, look inside of yourself, you'll find your construction. You'll find why you ultimately will decide one thing or another. So I just think it's just wrong for you to imply that there is that people should have some doubt about first causes and whether they're just reacting to circumstances or acting. There is no acting. There is just reaction. And we are reacting in the context of our entire heritage, from microbe, to great ape, to civilizing human. These are all part of us. The whole maturation of the human race lives inside of us in terms of part of our construction. And how you're raised, what school you go to, what diseases you get, what things you live through. Those things will decide whether you put your boots on and go out and shovel the driveway. Nothing else is going to decide but those things. And it's just silly to imply there's some other magic involved. There's no magic. We are robots in every way, and it's just wrong for people to think otherwise. The programming is old and long. The programming is convoluted and bizarre and redundant and nuanced, and it's so much spaghetti. There's a word in programming, in computer programming, called spaghetti code, because there's ways you can write code that's where everything is annotated, where every single thing you do, you explain what this does, what this does, what this does. All the code, you explain the code in text. And then there's people who write code like me, where they're thinking only of the efficiency of the code and the size of the file size and all this other stuff. They want to maximize it, and so all the code is just code. All the variables don't say like this variable holds number 4. It doesn't. The variables aren't descriptive. Nothing's descriptive. Everything is, DWF46 equals 789482. Totally not understandable. Totally not visible what this is, what this thing does. And that's our code. Our code has a ton of spaghetti in it. They call it spaghetti code because it just, besides being undescribable, you can't tell one piece from another. It all looks the same. It jumps. It has jumps all over the place. It hops all over the place. You can't even tell what part of the thing is doing what part of the thing when, because it does, And so it's a knot of spaghetti. So yeah, we're spaghetti coded. All right, we don't see the code because it isn't all annotated. It doesn't come with a description that the reason why you did this is, remember last Thursday somebody said the word balloon and bubble gum, and that's why you're thinking about pink balloons, because of balloon and bubble gum. Yeah, it doesn't have all those annotations to explain everything for you. So you have to. You have to know the flow a little. You have to be like in the Matrix, where the guys have learned because they've looked at the screens a few times, right? They see the numbers and the guy says, yeah, I see brunette, and I see blonde, and I see blah, blah, blah. Because they learn how to read it. And that's all you have to do. So the key here isn't that thinking we're something other than a wave of programming, because we're just a reaction. We're just a reaction of code reaction. We're just a mechanical device, and that's all we are. There's nothing else in there. There's no other room for anything else coming in. It's just a stream of numbers, stream of reactive cause and effect, and you can either learn how to read it and see the images, the vagaries, to see some pieces of it, see the things that are identifiable. And they're there. I'm just saying it's easy to see if you look for it. Just admit the truth. And quit pretending there's some grander mission. We're designed by evolution. We're designed to do one thing, and that is to survive in this competitive battle for the end of survival. There's no grander mission statement, just to say you win, that's it, and die, and have the next round, just to keep building organisms that can beat the shit out of each other. It's a perpetual gladiator war, just a perpetual mechanism where you take a couple of Donald Duck machines and you put some batteries in them, and you point them at each other, and they duke it out until you stop the game, until you take the batteries out. That's all there is. Okay. Yeah, I don't need to play this, do I? I'll play a little bit of it just to get the flavor of the
is a will.
And its implications.
The addiction is our motivations for doing anything. Simple addiction. We are reacting to a need that is in us that is really a go-nowhere need. The unneeded need, that is a will as well, because if you need something, you will it, you desire it, you must have it.
You want it. So that's the word he wouldn't use there, and he'll use want in the later context to imply it's something other than desire, will, addiction.
Need it. Whereas I suppose a Nietzschean take on that need is saying, no, it's not a need at all. It's a want.
I mean, see, so it's desire, it's addiction, it's all that crap, and all of a sudden it's want, and somehow want is something other than that. And now we're back to these words, this word problem, where I started off, where these words just don't have any meaning because people are making distinctions and describing words as if they have fundamentally different meanings when they're just variations of the same theme.
I don't need that lightning to strike, but I want it to strike, so I'm going to have the clouds.
Right, so you want it for no reason. No, you want it because you like the excitement, which is the same thing as saying, I need it to happen if I'm going to be happy, or I'm going to be comfortable. So that's what the need becomes. So instead of making need something that's necessary to survival, or necessary to prevent horrible harm, you just change the word need to mean I won't be happy. And all of a sudden anything is a need.
Collide. It's just, where do you put the emphasis on that which you do? Where do you put the emphasis when you're talking about desire, will, that kind of thing? Where is the initiative coming from? Are we simply reacting?
Yes, that's the word reaction. That's right. You have initial sentient capacity. It disposes you to give you positive and negative sensations, which essentially create carrots and whips. And you are being whipped and carroted right through your life, every single moment, every single day. I'm just saying the difference is that we can see tomorrow's whips and we can see tomorrow's carrots, and way, way further away than even tomorrow. So we can make judgments today that are based on tomorrow's carrots or a whip that might be there tomorrow. And that's the difference. But it's the same game we're playing. I mean, other mammals are quite capable of exactly the same thing. They certainly know there's a tendency of something to produce a whip, and even if it's not going to hurt them right now, they're still not going to take the thing home and sleep with it because they know it's going to blow up. They know what a bomb is, so to speak.
To that which takes place? Or are we an active participant in the chain of being, I guess?
Are we an active participant? What is the implication here? Is there something we are doing that's something other than our wills and wants and desires and mechanical, sensual reactions? There's some other we functioning inside of us. That's the implication here, of some sort of spontaneous we, some sort of I just completely made that out of nothing we. There is no such we.
Or the causal chain or whatever. I don't really see how this is a soluble issue.
So he thinks this is an issue in the first place, that somebody reasonable is going to somehow have some doubt in their mind that there isn't some magic force that's manipulating their neurons and manipulating their sensitivities and manipulating what they desire beyond their own biological chemistry and their education and their temperament and their character and their understanding. That all those things are completely overwhelmed by the little magic force that's going to make you do something. And maybe even do something completely against your best judgment or some kind of crazy stuff like that. It'll make you be a bad person when you want to be a good person. It sort of sounds like the excuse making being made.
Which is exactly why I really like the fact that Suicide for Celluloid has approached the issues the way that he has. I would assume that it's for the same reason that many people write aphoristically.
Yeah, so they can avoid, I don't know, taking account for things. Say mumbo jumbo, say preposterous things and get people to say, oh, okay, I'll accept that because it's short and sweet, even though it's absolute nonsense. So I mean, but like I said, if his little silly aphorisms were something other than complete Nietzschean crap, he probably wouldn't be applauding it. Quite obviously. Oh, we jump ahead here a little.
As I say, I'm not entirely sure what I make of that, but I can't rule out either one. There does seem to be an awful lot of reaction in my life. I have to react to all kinds of stuff. I have to react to the fact that my car is now snowed in, and I have to shovel all that out of there. But when you get down to it, my reaction is contingent upon my desire to drive my car.
And I guess he's arguing that his desire to drive his car isn't contingent on a whole bunch of realizations that, oh yeah, I don't want to walk in 1.5 feet of snow, because that'll take me 2.5 hours, and I'll get to work an hour and a half late. So, I mean, we kind of know why you're going to go out and shovel your car out, is because in case you need it, you got to have it. It's it's not gonna. You're not gonna want to find out that you got to rush somebody to the hospital or something, and then say, "Wait, I got to dig the car out." It's going to take a couple hours. Yeah. So you're probably going to feel more comfortable, more relaxed if you do it, rather than if you don't do it. So there's going to be mechanical thoughts. It's going to be clearly a distillation of the positives and the negatives, and your brain will balance them against each other, and it will choose the one that has the most votes, so to speak.
I might be forced to clear off the snow if I want to drive my car. But the snow and my desire to drive my car are not the same thing.
I don't know who would argue that the snow and your desire are the same thing. So that's kind of silly, isn't it? But quite obviously the desire was pre-existed. Your desire to do things and your understanding that the car enables you to do them pre-existed the snow. So quite obviously the convenience of having a car that's usable is something you certainly are aware of. And again, it has a weight, have a value, and the weights will be, your brain does this. It says this has a 40 weight, and that has a 30 weight, and that has a 10 weight, and it dumps them all in the scales, and it figures out its way, and it tips one way, and it says, okay, we're going that way. That's what it does.
There's only a reaction if I want there to be one.
If I want there to be one. And the thing wanting there to be one would be what? Not you? So, I mean, again, this idea that you're going to want yourself into want, the magical wanting forces will make you want mechanically. So the mechanical want that you'll concede is mechanical and circumstantial, you wanted to want that mechanical want. So you wanted the mechanical want into existence. Come on, that isn't going to work. So anyway, I think I've done enough on this subject. There's no point in killing it. But we're back to this, again, this is a pseudo-religion of the semi-atheists or something. I don't know what you call this mumbo-jumbo. But in my opinion, it makes atheism mean nothing. He doesn't really call himself an atheist, so that's good. But I mean, he talks as if he is one, which is bad. Because it really should mean more than I just don't accept traditional hokey pokey. I go for the glow-in-the-dark, newfangled neon hokey pokey. Anyway, till next time.